I tried beating Skyblock in Minecraft, but it's hardcore, meaning that one minor mistake can make us lose hours and hours of progress. Will I be able to get all of the advancements in one single video? Well, let's find out. I started off by spawning into my very lonely Skyblocky world and breaking all the grass, picking up a rose, and I managed to get myself a seed during this process. I opened the chest, picked up the sea pickle, glowberries, sugar cane, block of ice, lava, and the tan obsidian that came within the chest. I crouched down near the edge and broke the first couple of blocks of the tree without breaking the final few in order to make sure that the leaves do not fall off the edge of the island. Along with this, I was also seeing all the various different islands that were in our vicinity, and well, there was a lot of islands that we could travel to with various different resources. I crafted myself a pickaxe and made myself a cobblestone generator. This is essentially the most important thing in all of Skyblock, and I need to fully make sure that I wasn't going to mess this up. And I also placed a sea pickle right where the water was. I broke one cobblestone and messed up my cobblestone generator, causing it to turn into obsidian. And now I can never get cobblestone ever again. Well, this is where I had to retry. I made a new world, did all the same processes, except this time I managed not to mess up the cobblestone generator, and I started digging out cobblestone. I also cleared most of the island's dirt so I could replace it with cobblestone or wood without losing any of our most valuable resources, which is of course the dirt that we have. I kept on breaking cobblestone, expanding the island. I made sure to put a little slab over the lava so the cobblestone would not fall into the lava, and then I expanded our island even more. I made sure to plant down all of the saplings that I had, and then I gazed off into the distance to check out all of the other islands. With my saplings growing, cobblestone generator pumping, and sugarcane growing, I went back to the lava pit to get myself more cobblestone. I replaced my chests in a different area as well as the crafting table, and then I mined off all of the unnecessary cobblestone that was near my cobblestone generator. I looked at the most interesting island that I could, and I went straight to it. This was one that contained some snow and some snowy forest wood. In hindsight, this was probably the worst island to go to. It didn't really have anything, but the islands further away from my main island do get much more crazy, so I recommend you stick around to see what those are. Anyways, I kept on mining cobblestone up until it turned to daytime, and then I checked out all the various different advancements, and there was tons of stuff that we could do. I kept on building myself a platform to get to the snowy island, and I repeated this process over and over again. I actually had one tree grow, which was pretty neat, and then I kept on mining more cobblestone up until I got to the island. I finally got myself a food source, which were these berries that I could plant, so that was very neat. Now we could actually finally get food, and then I used the hoe to hoe down some of the dirt and plant myself some wheat seeds. I kept on mining the cobblestone because I knew I needed to get to other islands, and once it turned to nighttime, I realized that mobs were actually spawning on the bridge that I made to the snowy biome. This was pretty bad because they were not just any mobs, they were skeletons. So what I had to do is block off that area entirely because I don't want to risk it with skeletons appearing on my Skyblock world. That is just a recipe for disaster. Creepers and skeletons are the worst thing you could possibly see within your vicinity. I kept on breaking cobblestone. I used some of the bone meal from the skeletons that ended up dying within the sun to grow some wheat, and upon mining more cobblestone, my pickaxe broke, so I made a brand new pickaxe and repeated the mining process over and over again. Some trees grew, so I broke some of those down, and then I started to make my way to a whole different island. I saw some mushrooms on this island, and I had the fantastic idea that I could make myself some mushroom stew using these mushrooms, so that's exactly why I went there. I got to the island, broke some of the mushrooms, made some pots of stew, and then on that island, I essentially made a tiny little hut in darkness so the mushrooms could grow. If you don't know, in Minecraft, mushrooms can only grow when it's dark, but I did make a fatal mistake here. See, in hindsight, I did not know that you need to be close enough to trees, mushrooms, sugarcane, and so on for them to actually grow, because I spent hours and hours waiting for the mushrooms to grow and nothing was popping up. I mined up more cobblestone, kept on breaking more trees, and you know what? At this point, the island was starting to look pretty good. There was a moment where I got brutally attacked and almost got flung off the island. What happened was phantoms magically appeared. I completely forgot that if you don't sleep for a couple of days, these flying gangsters will come up and tag team you with no regard for how you feel about it. So I was super scared, but I did manage to take them out. And after that, I ended up mining more cobblestone just so then I could advance to the other island. The next island I was going to go to is the jungle biome island thing, which was off in the distance. But before that, using obsidian, I decided to make myself the nether portal, and putting a wood behind the flow of lava should theoretically set the wood on fire, and as the wood blazes, the nether portal should light up. I went over to my mushroom palace only to open it up and realize that nothing has grown. I harvested my berries, and also upon realizing that the nether portal trick just wasn't working, I decided to put the lava back in the cobblestone generator and keep on mining cobblestone. I fought off more phantoms once it turned to nighttime, and came back to my little mushroom hut to break off the mushrooms and the dirt so we could relocate it closer to the island so I can be closer to it and they could grow more rapidly. I made myself a little hut beside the island for the mushrooms to grow. I fought off more phantoms at nighttime, and then I tried to defeat as many spiders as possible in order to get string, and with enough string we can make ourselves wool, which then we can make a bed and sleep through all of the night terrors. I kept on breaking cobblestone, and this is where I started to make my venture over to the jungle island. Once I made my way there, I broke off some of the dirt. That's basically the only reason I went there. I didn't really need the wood or anything. I didn't need the cocoa. So yeah, after this we fought off more phantoms, harvested more berries, dug up more cobblestone, and then after this I started making my way to an even newer island. This was actually the best island that we could possibly get our hands on, as it had something very special on it, which I will tell you once we reach it. But I did not end up reaching it within this day, as it turned to nighttime and I ran all the way home because I didn't want mobs spawning on my island such as skeletons and shooting me off. I picked up all the wood, fought off more phantoms, checked on my mushroom growth. There was actually a moment where I nearly died from the phantoms, so that was kind of clutch. And then I went to fight off more spiders. I fought off the phantoms again, killed some skeletons, and this is where I decided, instead of keeping my trees within close distance to my cobblestone generator, I decided I was going to build them out on a bridge and make a massive tree farm. So that's exactly what I did. In a 5x5 radius of 1 dirt block for every 5 blocks, I made a massive tree farm, and this is going to come in handy for many projects to come later within this video. This granted us access to tons of wood, and I barricaded my entire sky spawn island, and I also lit it up with torches to make sure no mobs got in the way. At this point, I had started to build myself a mob spawner in order to get XP, bone meal, iron from zombies, carrots, potatoes, and also string from spiders. By this point, I had made a bed, so I slept through the night and then started work on my mob spawner. But there was kind of a problem. I didn't really know how to make a proper mob spawner if we didn't have any water, because most mob spawners require you to have water to push the mobs down once they fall into the main layer, but I didn't really have access to that and I thought it wasn't going to work. So I was just crossing my fingers and hoping that it would work without any water. I kept on chopping down more trees in order to get myself as much wood as possible, as I definitely needed it in order to finish off my mob farm. And essentially this entire time I kept on building my mob grinder, waiting for trees to grow and then breaking the trees and then building the mob grinder even more. This took probably an entire episode of me doing this. I also used the dirt to make myself a proper mini farm, and at this point the mob grinder was looking more like a mob grinder instead of just like a level 1 archer tower from Clash of Clans. But yeah, things were starting to come together and I was getting quite hyped for what was about to happen within our playthrough. At this point I started building the roof for the mob grinder, and then I waited for some of my wheat to grow and my melons to grow, and once that happened I'd pick them all up. I was chopping down more trees. I managed to finish the mob grinder. I put some gates down and I waited near it to see if it would work. As I used my ladder to get up to the top, I did see that there were mobs that were actually within the actual mob grinder, but I didn't see any that had dropped down. And once I made my way all the way down to the bottom, I actually realized that there were some mobs that did drop. So I started killing them, but there was a moment where I was killing them and then a creeper decided to explode. So that was pretty nasty. Of course, I rebuilt it and kept on killing more mobs. Once I finally got to the island that I was trying to previously get to, I realized that there actually was water within this island, and now we can have an infinite water source for our Skyblock adventures. I picked up the water in a bucket, made my way back to spawn, and made myself an infinite water source back in my island. This helped me make an even bigger farm to help us get even more food, and with an infinite water source, a good amount of food, and a mob grinder, my next goal was to go and expand my islands and explore what is beyond the territory of my own little sky world. Since I had my render distance quite up high, I got up to the infinite water island, and then I used Optifine to peep further and see what island was close by. I found one that was fairly close, only to realize that when I got close enough to it, it was actually one of the pillager islands. And since they have crossbows, I don't really want to get close to it. So I made another platform to an island close to that, only to realize that that had nothing. And All I did was just farm some of the dirt from it, and that was it. Anyways, at this point I ran back to my island, and then I went to my little mushroom island, peeked over to the left, and saw a woodland mansion. Over to the right, I managed to find myself some weird cave looking structures, which I was oddly intrigued by. So I started to farm out more wood and diagonally make my way over to the structures. Every single time it turned to nighttime, I ran back to sleep. I got myself some armor from all the mobs that I killed, and then I kept on pursuing the diagonal build all the way over to that weird cave looking structure. This is essentially all that I did up until we got very close to it. I realized that there was actually the edge of the world, which I never really thought I could reach in Skyblock, but you know, I guess once you play long enough, you find some weird things. See, I was wondering if I could actually get past the edge of the world. Like, can I make my way there and just get infinite resources? Well, I guess we'll have to find out soon. I made my way all the way over to that area. I jumped a bucket of water, and once I zoomed in, I realized that there were actually a bunch of chests. There were slimes, there was a bunch of really neat resources, so I had to go there. Once I picked up some of the chests, I got myself some really neat things, such as enchantment books. I got some armor. I got a bunch of cool stuff. I actually started getting diamond gear, and once I ventured further enough into this cavern thing, I saw some pillagers, so I ran away from them, and I just kept on exploring the chests. I ran around this whole area, and once I went to these weird creatures, they ended up blinding me. I didn't really know what this was, so I backed off and ran away because I was not going to test my luck with that. See, this is something added by the new update. I haven't really properly played Minecraft since like 1.7, so I had no clue what these were. And let me tell you, this is where it gets kind of depressing. I got onto this little island and I see a chest. So what do? Well, I go for the chest and I pick up as much stuff as I can. I pick up all the amethyst shards, all the enchanted books. They're so amazing. And then my whole screen goes dark. Using my pickaxe, I decide to break one of these pillars, one of these little toothy spiky things. Once that's broken, I get close to another one. I break that one as well. I got some weird advancement called Sneak 100 apparently. And as I go to break the final one, some weird gigantic creature sprawls out of the ground. Me having no clue what this is, I ran away as fast as I could. I remember seeing this in some weird update, but I never really got to experience this in real Minecraft. I've only seen this thing on videos and I have no clue what it does. I was sneaking around, I was all blind, waiting for it to do something, until all of a sudden it shoots me into a wall. I decide to run as far as I could away from this monster, and as I was eating my poor lemon, I got shot once more, straight off of the Skyblock world, to land into the void and get killed by a warden. This has been part 1. If you want to see part 2, drop a like on the video. If this video gets 5,000 likes, I'll do a part 2 for sure. This was loads of fun to do, and next time I guess I'll be more careful of the warden. This has been Boio. Peace out.